Hey, this is Real Deal Sports Talk. It is April 2nd, 2018, and this is the Barbarians' new track, Sincerely Yours.
Sincerely yours. Sincerely yours. Dear Reverend, I can't believe you damn near 7. I wrote this letter to tell you that you a real blessing. And I don't even believe in heaven, with the exception if it's really real, then no question that you would be the essence. You the best thing that happens inside I met your mama. Nothing makes me happier than the honor of being your father. Ever since Shatana laid up in the labor room, I can't believe how much a new baby could really change a dude. You was a planned birth, walk around with diaper bags like a man purse. I was prouder than any man on earth. Your first birthday, time flies in the worst way, cause just the other day you was trying to climb out the learning cage. Now you running and jumping, laughing with so much joy, no greater satisfaction than when you holding your baby boy. Star Wars, dinosaurs, all the latest toys, I give it to you all, anything you could ever ask me for. I send a kite to the loved ones within my life, cause you're the inspiration for which I write. Sincerely yours. To my dogs who rep the squad from day one, we're saying thanks, bruh, for embracing love. Sincerely yours. To all the fans who keep records spinning like ceiling fans and giving us a chance, your extended fans. Sincerely yours. When I'm falling, my physical form is dead and gone, you can play the song in memory of. Sincerely yours.
Dear Mom, I'd just like to thank you for being strong. You could have gave up, but you just kept pressing on. Lost most of your vision, but I wanted you to see deep down inside what you really mean to me. Bend but don't break, don't ever get it confused. The survivor of the physically and mentally abused. We are all God's children, but you are like an angel. My whole being formed in your womb, and I'm thankful. Long, hard hours on the grind in a bus, but you always found time to take care of all of us. I'm not rich with money, I'm wealthy, because you taught us always exercise and eat healthy. No father around, so I should have been a fool, but instead got a full ride scholarship to school. Always tried your best, never gave us bad advice. In the dictionary, see your picture next to sacrifice. I love you.
I send a kite to the loved ones within my life, cause you're the inspiration for which I write. Sincerely yours. To my dogs who rep the squad from day one, we're saying thanks, bruh, for embracing love. Sincerely yours. To all the fans who keep records spinning like ceiling fans and giving us a chance, your extended fans. Sincerely yours. When I'm falling, my physical form is dead and gone, you can play this song in memory of. Sincerely yours. Sincerely yours. Sincerely yours. Sincerely yours. Sincerely yours.
All right, how is everybody doing today? April 2nd, 2018. This is Real Deal Sports Talk. I am KP. That was Sincerely Yours by the Barbarians. The Barbarians, they are the official music of Real Deal Sports Talk with KP. These are a couple of guys I go way back with. So anything I can do to help them out, spread their music and get them off, that's what I'm going to do. They're two good dudes. They're lyricists. They're old school hip hop. None of this garbage we got out now. So you'll hear two of their tracks each and every one of our shows. Just got to spread the love. You help people get up. You help people come up. You help people get off on what they're doing. And good things come back to you. So Vivid Scientific, Don Banks, do your thing, brothers. And I'm proud of you. You're doing big things. It's great. And again, that was Sincerely Yours by the Barbarians. You can check them out through our website, realdealsportstalkwithkp.com. They're on the Check Us Out page. There's links to their Facebook and their SoundCloud. So show them some love out there, all my listeners. Appreciate you guys. All right, today, again, this is a sports show. So today on today's show, we are going to be talking about all these rumors going around with Gronkowski. We'll talk about the NCAA basketball championships, as one has finished, one is tonight. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Flairs. Now, when I say the Flairs, some of y'all that clicked in, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of y'all are like, what, KP, what are you talking about? All right, when I say the Flairs, I'm talking about Ric Flair and his daughter, Charlotte Flair. For whatever reason, I've been seeing a lot of posts and a lot of stories about them recently. It got me thinking about both of their respective careers, reminiscing a little bit. So I'm going to take today's show and we're going to talk about a little bit about the Flairs. Also, at the end of the show, just a cool story I saw this week that we'll get to at the end of the show. But let's jump right into it. Big thing, everybody's tournament brackets, everybody's betting money. I hear people betting lunches today while I'm at work, and you owe me this if you win this, and everybody's unofficial pools, because sports betting is illegal, are winding up tonight. Women's bracket wound up yesterday. Men's bracket ends up tonight. And all this nonsense. What I tell you guys, I told you guys last week, this nonsense about UConn being bad for the women's game was just that. It was a bunch of nonsense. It was a bunch of people who are not UConn fans who would rather see somebody else win and didn't think that winning big was something that was good for other programs. And like I said, UConn winning the way they win inspires these other teams. It gives them a fire to want to come and not only knock them off, but to then be that program, to be the program that is the best. They are the equivalent of the New England Patriots since the year 2000 in women's college basketball. And just like Brandon Marshall, the receiver for the Giants last year, said, everybody in the NFL should be ashamed of themselves for letting this happen. Because you haven't gotten your stuff together. You haven't played hard enough. You haven't studied enough to knock New England off the pedestal. Guess what, women college hoops? You haven't done enough. You haven't tried hard enough. You haven't put in the hours. And that's why UConn's where they're at. Now, you get to the semifinal games the other day. I did on this show. I said I was picking UConn to win their bout, to face Mississippi State in the national title game. I did pick Mississippi State to move on to the national title game. Mississippi State, in overtime, got to the national title game. They got past Louisville. In overtime, Notre Dame beat the big bad Huskies and knocked UConn out. And it was a great game. Both games were. And you're going to sit there and tell me, or any other college basketball fan, that the women's game isn't any good? It's not fun to watch? It's not exciting? Are you kidding me? Both semifinal games in overtime. Both came down to the end. Both were close. Big upset of the Goliath in UConn. Mississippi State showing that toughness and that grit that got them to the championship last year. Move forward till Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. Notre Dame takes on Mississippi State for that national title. And I told you guys, both of these programs specifically had no fear of UConn. These are both the two schools that have ended their most recent win streaks. Notre Dame did it again this year. They have now beaten the mighty UConn undefeated win streaks twice. They have no fear of the UConn women moving forward. None. So you move forward to Sunday, national title game. Two programs that wanted UConn. One program that got to beat UConn. They come into this game. Notre Dame goes out early. Mississippi State builds a lead in the second half. Notre Dame has to come back. Largest comeback in the history of women's college hoops in the NCAA tournament, I believe, if I remember correctly. And then Notre Dame goes on. It's looking to me like it's going to be another overtime game for the championship. 3 straight overtimes. Both semifinals and now the national championship. Overtime games. Notre Dame crawls all the way back, ties it at 58, with 3 seconds left to go in the game. Mississippi State, I'm still thinking, hey, these girls are tough. 3 seconds of defense, they got it. This one's going to overtime. I can't believe it. I'm waiting for Monday's show so I can tell everybody I was right. Then, Arike Agumbawe, I'm sorry, I know I butchered your name, miss. Ice in this woman's veins. Let me tell you what. And it's not a difference between being a male player and a female player. Oh, she's like Kobe. She's got the Mamba mentality. No. She's like Enrique. She's got no fear. And she stepped up. She got the inbounds pass. She knew she had limited time on the clock. She dribbles to her right. She takes an off-balance prayer of a shot. And you couldn't have made a more perfect shot. High arcing right through the bottom of the hoop. Buzzer sounds. National championship won. But I'm supposed to be convinced that UConn's bad for the women's game. Did anybody watching that game not have an excited reaction to a game-winning shot? Has anybody not seen the reactions of the ESPN crew who watched the game or called the game? Or the fans or the benches? I mean, come on. That was great, great basketball. Those women stepped up and they've dominated the weekend so far. What the women did in the semifinal games beat Michigan Loyola, and it beat Villanova Kansas. Villanova Kansas was a sleeper. Villanova jumped out huge, stayed up big, and it was never really a game. And I took Kansas in that game. Loyola Chicago, okay, they stayed closer with Michigan. It was a little bit tighter of a game. But neither one of the men's semifinals compared to the female semifinal games. I don't know that the men's national title game is going to compare to the women's national title game. Because tonight, in about 2 hours on TBS, you got Michigan taking on Villanova. And on paper, this is an easy, easy win for a team like Villanova. Especially with what they did to Kansas and how they moved through the tournament, their shooting, their athleticism. But Michigan, they got nothing to lose. Yeah, they're a 3 seed, but a lot of people thought they weren't good enough to be a 3 seed. A lot of people think they're not good enough to be in this game. And if I remember correctly, and please check me on this, at the beginning of the season, they were not a highly ranked team with aspirations of making it to the national title game. And a team with nothing to lose, that's a scary team. Being said, Villanova should win tonight. I am taking Villanova to win tonight. I would like to see Michigan win. I would like to see Michigan play such good perimeter defense and take care of the rim that Villanova's stuck with nothing but mid-range jumpers. I would like to see them out-rebound, get more steals, have all the hustle plays, and pull it off. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I expect the Wildcats to win their second national title tonight. Or their third national title, excuse me. But yeah, by far, this year, those statements of the women's game not being fun to watch or competitive or good enough, I'm sorry. The women put that all to bed this weekend. With their semifinal games, with the national championship, they have outshined the men in the NCAA tournament. Period. That's how I see it. Period. A situation that's becoming weird, that's starting to outshine everything else, is this situation with Gronk and the New England Patriots. This is the time of year, there's lots of rumors, lots of stories circulating, and you don't really know what to believe. People say, oh, you got to read the tea leaves, you got to kind of read through the BS, wait and see. I don't know what this story with Gronk in New England is. I think they did him wrong with his contract situation so far in his career based on what he's meant to Tom Brady in that offense. They are a machine. Don't get me wrong. You pull Gronk out, you put in another little teeny tiny running back or receiver, and you change up the play calling a little bit, and they kept it going. But not having that presence, that beast, that freak of an athlete that Gronkowski is, has hurt them. They might have another Super Bowl or two had he been able to stay healthy and not taking the pounding and the beating a guy his size takes on a football field. So, okay, they've done him wrong contractually. We all know that the medical situation in the NFL is as screwed up as it can get, so they probably have done some stuff there that we're not quite sure of either. including how they handled his clear concussion from the AFC Championship game last year and him being able to then turn around and play in the Super Bowl. There's a reported feud between him and Belichick. Is this in conjunction with or separate to the other stories that Belichick, Kraft, and Brady are at odds? I mean, this goes back to the House of Cards is now apparently crumbling down based on the rumors we have coming out of New England. Based on all of the coaches that have left New England. Based on the players that have left New England this offseason. A lot of turnover for a team that's been pretty much dominant since the year 2000. Now the idea that Gronkowski could be traded, he could retire, he's pretty certain he'll be back for 2018. That leads everybody to think, oh, Gronkowski's going to retire. He's pretty certain he'll be back. Well, that leads me to believe they've had conversations already saying, we're willing to trade you. If we get the right deal, we might go ahead and ship you. Or when he signed the last contract. There's all kinds of inner workings that could be going on that we don't know about as these little stories start to break now. But what does it mean if a Gronkowski leaves New England? They lost Danny Amendola. They lost to James White. Julian Edelman is coming back from injury this year. We'll see what kind of year he's going to have. They don't have a lot of other weapons up there in New England. They re-signed Burkhead. Okay. It seems like, and we've talked about this before, it seems like the empire is starting to crumble. The empire is starting to fall. There's starting to be other outside interests. There's starting to be little injuries and problems that are building up to where the point that winning no longer is covering up these differences. Outside looking in. Now, I would be willing to bet there's at least 25 teams or more that if Gronkowski is released or truly on the trade block would have some kind of interest depending on the asking price. Now, if he's released, I don't see him clearing waivers. Whatever that first team is, even if it's, say, the Kansas City Chiefs with Travis Kelce, they're going to pick up a Gronk and pair him with their other tight end. Now, I would love to see a Gronk for a year or two in Detroit come play with Patricia, give Stafford a nice starting tight end. I don't see it happening. I think Gronk either plays out the contract with New England or he ends up retiring. Crazier things have happened, however. Crazier things like wrestlers wrestling into their 50s and 60s. One of the topics I wanted to get to today, the Flair family. Crazy enough, I've been watching a lot of my old NWA, WCW, WWF, WWE, I guess, DVDs and old matches that I just have from a kid, back when it was the golden age. Okay, I'm talking 84 through 95. To me, right before the so-called Attitude Era and when they tried to sell wrestling with sex and nudity, I've got all kinds of the Starcades and WrestleManias and Royal Rumbles and Great American Bash and all these different things. Watching Flair come up with the Four Horsemen, his bravado, his style, how he made wrestling relevant. And granted, there was the Hulk Hogan factor and the Vince McMahon on the WWFE side as well. But what Rick was able to accomplish, the showman that he was, everything he apparently gave, again, outside looking in, I don't know Rick personally. I haven't worked for the organizations that he does, so I don't have personal knowledge. I have fan-based knowledge. you got to respect what Ric Flair did in the ring and everything that he gave. Nobody took a fall like Ric Flair. Nobody. I mean, the way he would get hit and sometimes just kick that leg back and take a face dive onto the mat, you don't see guys doing that. The way he would get whipped into the turnbuckle and flip upside down and go outside of the ropes and either turn that into something and or then get knocked down outside of the ring was amazing. The figure four leg lock, one of my favorite submissions. Don't hate the player, hate the game. And then you start seeing Rick all over the place now since his health scare, right? You see him in rap videos. You see his line of suits coming out. And he's still styling. He's still profiling. He's still the jet-setting flying guy. He lives the persona. And that's great. I love it. I love all the titles he owned and won and lost. I love all of the so-called dirty shots he took with the elbow in the groin and the eye pokes. And I mean, he was one of the wrestlers you just wanted to tune in and see how it was going to go. And when he made it to the WWF because his contract with WCW was up or whatever that happened there in the early 90s, I was so excited. Because at that point, to me, the WCW had some of an attraction. They had Sting, they had Rick, they had Vader, Steiner brothers. But the WWF at the time had more attractive characters. And I don't mean attractive like they were cute or handsome or sexy or anything like that. I mean, they were just characters that you wanted to see what the storylines were going to be. You bought into them a little more. So when Rick made it to the WWF and came over, it was like, great, he's one of the best. I can't wait till Sting makes it over. I hope that's next. I hope it's soon. I hope all these guys get to go against each other. I want to see these different talents interact. So it was great when Ric Flair came over, when Lex Luger came over, when Legion of Doom came over. And you started seeing some of these other acts from the other promotions making their way into the more mainstream WWF. And it was still years later before we ever got to see Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan. The two guys of the 80s, the two guys who you would think really wouldn't like each other at the time because they were both considered to be the best, the greatest, but they never got a chance to compete. And they really didn't get a chance to compete until like the late 90s with the whole NWO thing in WCW. And that was kind of a washed out storyline because neither one of them were the guys they were when you really wanted to see the match. And you know, Rick's got a few sons, his daughter. I think he has two daughters, maybe. At least one that we know of, Charlotte. And his son never really panned out in wrestling. He was more of an amateur wrestler. And then his other son, who was involved in the NWO, I think that was more just of a family business type thing. He really wasn't a wrestler. He was just a guy out there that was part of the storyline. And then I watched Rick's last match today for Shawn Michaels. And at the end of that match, you can see the emotion on both of their faces. You see Shawn Michaels setting up his finishing move. You see him look at Rick with sadness in his face and tell him he's sorry and that he loves him. And he finishes Rick. Rick's almost in tears at this point. It was a great moment. A great moment. I'm sure Shawn was thrilled to be a part of it, saddened to have to be the guy. Everybody knew it was going to be Rick's last match competing. It didn't bring tears to my eyes or anything, but it was just great to see. I mean, it's something that I didn't watch that live. I stopped getting pay-per-views and things like that a long time ago. I still follow the WWE. You know, it's part of what I do. It's part of this show. It's part of what I share out with the world. It's not what it was anymore, but they have Rick's daughter now, right? Charlotte. And to me, Charlotte is by far one of the best women wrestlers of all time. Performance-wise, athleticism-wise. Now, there's been other female wrestlers that were great performers, but not quite the athlete Charlotte is. There's been other female athlete or wrestlers that have been the athlete Charlotte is, but not quite the performer. She, right now, in this time of women's wrestling, is the best there is. Now, two others that are really good that I like, Naomi and Natalie, the Hart Foundation, Anvil's daughter. Both of them are very good at their craft. Charlotte's got some competition there. But outside of that, like the Raw champion, whose name I can't think of right now, I should have written it down, she's not in the same class. Athletically, she's becoming a better character, but she's not in the same class athletically. What is her name? I don't know why that's escaping me right now. Bliss. Alexa Bliss. Jeez. And I think Charlotte needs some real competition. If they could find her some real competition, figure out a storyline where she's wrestling Natalie or Naomi more often, or the three of them have a thing that intermingles and they all have issues with each other. If Becky Lynch can get a little bit better, if WWE knocks off this idea of having two brands, one of the best things that made the WWE what it is was not dividing the shows and dividing the talent up. It was having the full roster to create storylines and interact and push this guy for a couple weeks on this guy while this other major storyline is going on. And the third guy can intervene here and there, and eventually we're going to have him wrestle in a big blowout. Now you got the same people wrestling the same people week in and week out. It gets boring, it gets redundant, and the writers are wasting this talent. I love watching Charlotte Flair. She's one of the reasons that I do turn in to currently watch. She's good at what she does. And she looks pretty good doing it too. So, yeah, man, the Flair family, Charlotte, Rick, two of the best in their respective eras. Oh, and as cool as that was, as cool as wrestling was when I was a kid, there was a story this week that it was just a really cool story. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but you should definitely check it out. There's a player by the name of Devin Smeltzer. He's a pitcher for the Dodgers, drafted in 2016, I believe. When Devin was 9 years old, he was diagnosed with cancer. And within a year later, when he was 10, I don't know if it was a full calendar year, if it was a few months he turned 10 or whatever, how it happened. But when he was 10, he got to meet Chase Utley. At that time, Chase was a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. He's now a member of the LA Dodgers. So Devin was drafted in 2016, and this year, 2018, he made the big league roster. He got invited to camp, spring training with the big league team. So Dave Roberts, the coach, and the Dodgers, they learn about this story basically because Chase is still on the team. They're bringing in Devin. He's doing the announcements and introductions and stuff in the locker room. And he shows this video of Chase and Devin and how they met and their interactions, and then he introduces Devin. And that's just a really cool story of how, things come full circle. You never know what's going to happen in life. You got to try and stay positive, push the negativity and the bullshit to the side, and just do what you got to do to find happiness. Especially in today's current day and age, in today's political atmosphere, in the current society, you got to find a way to put the BS to the side, find something to be positive about, and keep moving forward. because Devin beat cancer. He's now living his dream. He's now in the pros. He now got to go see his idol again as a kid who grew up in Pennsylvania. As a teammate, nonetheless. And there's inspirational stories in all walks of life that are like this. But that was a cool story for me. So we had our cool story. We talked about the Flair family, Rick's legacy, Charlotte's prowess. We talked about the idea of Gronk possibly leaving New England, and maybe some contributing factors to that. Just don't see it happening. We got the men's national title game here in about an hour and a half over on TBS. I think tip-off is around 7:20. We had the women's national title game, which the semifinals and finals were outstanding. That's the show. This is Real Deal Sports Talk with KP. Until next time, everybody, just be real.
Yeah, they say that talk is cheap, but not with me if you want it first, it'll cost a fee. I put them C's in the hearse the way that I torture beats. My vocal cords producing the force to lift you above your feet. I'm off the leash when I sink my teeth in the seats to eat. At night I stalk the streets, and the day I lay in the coffin sleep. I'm deaf walking on 2 feet, make it hard to sleep. The rhythm, the beat, the exorcism, the way your heart to beat. You know we're starving, these rap artists is ours to eat. And when you carve the meat, make sure you serve me the largest piece.
Fuck peace, I ain't stopping till they all deceased. Ravage through the underground scene like a savage beast. Nightmare on Elm Street, damn it's been a wild day. Grown man business, you can miss us with the child's play. No time to waste, so I go ahead and make it fast. Covered up my face, blood dripping off the Jason mask. Microphone audio's the Twilight Zone. The Alfred Hitchcock, it is murder mystery hip hop. Chainsaw massacre rappers make it seem effortless. Take all their possessions in seconds, call me the exorcist. Resurrect your soul from the dead, something like Lazarus. Crucify your flesh to a cross, Jesus in Nazareth. Half of these whack rap cats can never spit with me. Craft a paragraph, cause it paranormal activity. Damien had an omen for dancing around with the devil. Rise from the ash like the phoenix and never settle.
Yeah, rest in peace to all the beats that we left deceased. Rest in peace to feeble MCs, but leaving them 6 feet. Your dance moves and your weak rhyming is lunacy. Rest in peace to all that buffoonery, this the eulogy. Rest in peace to all the beats that we left deceased. Rest in peace to feeble MCs, but leaving them 6 feet. Your dance moves and your weak rhyming is lunacy. Rest in peace to all that buffoonery, this the eulogy. It's either you or me, so I guess this is the eulogy.